Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to another series in Let's Get Loud with Ingrid. For those who are joining me for the very first time, I just want to introduce myself and let you know who I am. I am Ingrid Miller. I'm a coach by profession, and I started Let's Get Loud just to give a voice to those people who think they're the only ones suffering in silence from the various diseases, from the various issues that we face in life that we just sit in silence on and we never talk about because we think we're the only ones who are suffering. Only to find out that when you share your story, that there are millions of people who have similar stories, and your story of victory can help them overcome. So today, on this series that we're starting, we are going to be interviewing and hearing the story of one cancer survivor, Mrs. Jolene Ramos. She's a banker by profession, and because of brain cancer, she has been placed in permanent or long term, not permanent, long term disability. And she's going to share her story and how it all started, the journey to where she is, and what she expects the future to hold for her. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Let's Get Loud, Mrs. Jolene Ramos. Jolene, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
It's so good to have you, my
Thank
darling. Thank you
you.
so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Jolene,
Yes, ma'am.
your journey is a rather interesting one, and I'm
Yes.
sure that you're excited, to say the least, to share your story with the world.
Absolutely.
Do you want to tell us, first of all, Jolene, how this all started? How did you get diagnosed?
It all started on May the 14th of 2020, in the middle of COVID, while we were shut down as a country. And my son, who was 10 at the time, was who told me that something was wrong.
And your son is here right now with us.
Yes, he is.
And we're going to invite him, Caden. We're going to invite Kaden Ramos to come in and share his experience about what happened with mom on May 14th, 2020. Caden. Hi, Caden.
Hi.
Welcome to Let's Get Loud. Thank you for agreeing to be on and sharing your story about your experience with mommy. Okay? It's just going to be a conversation with us. No need to have anything to worry about. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. So yes, Jolene, you were saying.
So, because we were shut down, I was actually working from home, and I was sleeping because I actually slept late because I had to homeschool as well.
Okay.
Because his school at the time, came and crept, well, still his school, was closed. So we had to do everything through video.
Right.
So I had my alarm set for nine, I think it was, we started class, 9.
Yeah.
And I was basically sleeping in the bed, and he has his own room, but he insists on always coming into our room. He either falls asleep in our room, or even if he does fall asleep in his room, he tends to come over into our room. And thank God he was there, because I was waking up, or like my body felt it was waking up.
Right.
Like I could hear his voice in the room, but I wasn't fully awake at that time. And I could hear him calling mommy, mommy, mommy. But I could hear his voice was getting frantic.
Right.
But to me, it felt like I was just getting up out of sleep.
Right.
I didn't feel different. And he said to me, he said, mommy, what was wrong? So finally, when I did wake up and sit up on the bed, he said, mommy, what was wrong with you? And I said,
So Kaden, what did you see?
So what I saw was my mom was shaking like frantically.
And you said shaking like her entire body?
Like her entire body, like she was having a seizure.
Wow.
And at that time one of my aunts actually had a seizure, so that's how I knew it might have been a seizure.
Wow.
And she was like gagging, like she was trying to say something, but she couldn't. It was like kind of hard to. It was like something that she couldn't kind of speak.
Wow.
It was hard for her to speak, and like it seemed like she couldn't breathe.
Wow. Were you panicking?
I started crying at the time, and I started shaking her to try to wake her up.
Wow. So when mom finally woke up and you said to her, Mom, what was happening? Jolene, what did you say to her?
I said, I don't understand what you mean. And then exactly what he's telling you now. And I said, and then what happened? He said, the pupils of your eyes came in and you just woke up. So
when you said the pupils of your eye came in, what happened? Was it white when you were looking?
Yeah, and at that time I was hugging her because I thought she wouldn't wake up, and then at the same time, her eyes rolled in, like her eyes came, like her pupils rolled in at that time. And I started to get up and trying to see what was happening, like what was wrong.
And then what happened after that, Jolene?
That day I just continued. I worked from home. I did all the laundry. I did all the things I would normally do. I didn't feel sick in any way. But I think it's important to say that I did suffer from headaches all along.
All day?
No.
You were having headaches before?
Yeah, like basically my whole adult life. But it was always some other reason that was given medically, like, oh, hormones from birth control.
Right.
Or you're stressed, you have the cold, you have a sinus infection. It was always something why I was having these headaches. It was never, well, let's take a look.
Scan.
No, none of that ever took place before.
And then what happened after normalcy, operating day-to-day operation, helping him in school, doing your work? What happened after that?
After that, then that evening, we had already had a scheduled, well, not appointment, but time set to have conversation with our two older kids, our two girls.
Right.
One lives in the US.
Okay.
So she's not here.
Right.
Help. So we had a Zoom meeting that night, and I explained to them what he said. And, the older one, especially, she's very upfront. So she said, Mommy, why did you not go to the doctor today? And I said, well, I wouldn't even know how to see a doctor because it's in the middle of COVID.
Right.
I don't even know, can I walk into a hospital and request to see a doctor? I don't know what the procedure was at the time. And then my daughter said, well, Mommy, if it was a friend of yours that told you that their child said that, why didn't you would have been the first one to get in your car and take them to the hospital. So then why aren't you doing the same?
Others, but we don't think we deserve
ourselves. Yeah. So she said, Mommy, I think you really need to go. So I said to my husband, I said, I don't know, what time. I won't be able to go tonight, but tomorrow morning, first thing I'm going to the hospital. Okay. And I did that. That would be the Friday of May, the 15th, because it was on a Thursday.
Right.
And I got up and I said, from that meeting, and I said, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to do something for Jolene. I'm going to do something for me.
Oh, that's so important.
Because if I had seen, if it was my husband or one of my friends or my children, I would have jumped up and taken him to the hospital right away. He couldn't do that for me, so I have to do it for myself.
And how did you feel when you heard Mommy say that she's going to go to the hospital? How did you feel? Or to the doctor?
I felt worried that she had something bad.
Really? Based on your experience, what you saw. So Jolene, tell us about your journey to the doctor and what happened.
So,
because I know it's COVID, it was COVID.
It was COVID.
So it was difficult.
The next day, I placed the call to the hospital.
But hold on, before we even go any further, the next day you woke up normal.
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah, you didn't see anything, right? You still crept into the bed, right?
I couldn't fall asleep that night. I got no sleep, but I think about an hour of sleep. That's it. And I would keep waking
and watching Mommy.
Yeah, I would keep waking up and watching her, and I could kind of feel her shake like a little. So then I got scared and I started calling her name again. So she would either shake once or twice, and it really scared me.
So your mom is a little keeper in house. Your little angel. So you went to the doctor. And
so I made the call, and of course, because it was COVID, the primary concern at most hospitals was COVID-19. So I called and they asked all the questions. Do you have a fever?
Right.
Do you need to see? Do you have a cough? All the things that would have been
Right.
a symptom of COVID-19.
Right.
So anyway, the long story was finally the doctor said, no, this is what happened. Where would I need to go in the hospital? This is what my son said he saw.
Right.
And um, and basically he said, you're going to go, he directed me to where in the hospital I needed to go.
Okay.
Exactly. Told my husband and my son, because they were the only ones at home, hey, I'm going to head to the hospital, go and get myself checked out.
Right.
And when I got there, and
So did you go alone?
yeah, I went alone. I couldn't take anybody with me.
Right.
COVID. Yeah. So just me alone. I went to the location, the doctor that saw me.
But how did you feel driving
I
to
felt
the doctor?
fine.
You felt
I
fine.
felt fine.
But
Yeah.
emotionally, how did you feel?
I didn't feel like anything was truly wrong with me. I was like, I even told Caden, I said, thank you for being honest and coming forward and telling me what you saw. I know
Right.
it must have been scary, but thanks enough for trusting and telling me what
Yeah.
you saw.
That was so brave of you.
Yeah, very. And I did everything I normally would do.
Mm-hmm.
Driving didn't seem to be difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, at least not at the time. Anyway, so I drove myself to the hospital.
Right.
Saw the doctor by myself.
Mm.
He said, he wasn't really concerned. He did like balancing tests and stuff, and
Okay.
I appeared to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, just as a precaution, I want you to do a CT scan. So I said, okay, no problem. And I walked over to the CT area.
Mm.
Thank goodness it was COVID as well.
Okay, so the CT scan is the one that you go through the machine. Is that?
It's two, the CT scan and an MRI.
Okay.
So I had to do both on that day.
Oh wow.
But they were requested by different doctors.
Okay.
Yeah. So he basically said to me, do the CT scan if I could. It's the first time in my 40-something years of life that I went to the area where you do the ultrasounds and the CT scan, and I got through immediately. I guess
Because
it was
of COVID.
Nobody wanted to be in the hospital.
Wow.
I mean, I couldn't believe
So
it.
COVID had a blessing for you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I went, they said, okay, we can do it right away. They took me in the room. The lady did whatever,
Mm-hmm.
did the machine. Then she came back and she said, Miss, I want to have you ever had a contrast injected into you? And I said, no, I
What's a
don't think so.
contrast?
It's a dye, but it lights up certain things in your body.
Oh.
So I said, no, I haven't, or I don't recall ever getting one.
Right.
So she said, some people are very allergic, but just to know that they have the injection there, that if I am allergic, they
Okay.
can administer it immediately.
Okay.
To counteract
Mhm.
anything I might be going through. And I said, sure. She said, normally you would have to sign a paper, but because you're already in the machine, if you tell me verbally, I can do it.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, sure. And then when I got up from finishing the CT scan, she didn't say anything to me as in, I see something.
Right.
She just simply said, when are you going back to the doctor? And I said, he told me I could come back in a week or two to get the results. And she said to me, I think you should go back today. That was the first indication to me that, hey, maybe something's
Something's
wrong.
not right.
Yeah.
So how did you feel in that moment?
In that moment, I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just, I was thinking maybe I have an infection,
Okay.
like maybe a brain infection or something like that. But I didn't think it would be
anything.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be brain cancer.
Okay.
Then I did that, and so I went back to the area now where I saw the doctor first.
Right.
He wasn't there. Well, if he was there, he didn't come out.
Right.
So another doctor came out to me and he
Mhm.
said, are you Miss Ramos? And I
Right.
said, yes. And he said, we're transferring you to the ER because we're not equipped to deal with you here in this area of the hospital.
Okay.
And then he gave me the name of the doctor who would be taking care of me in the ER. And a nurse came with a wheelchair then and wheeled me over, took me to the ER.
And in that moment now,
I said, something isn't right. But at that point still, I didn't know what that something was. So, I mean, I don't know very many people with brain cancer, so
Right.
that wasn't a thought. I thought, maybe like a blood clot or
Right.
some other
Right.
thing to do with my brain, maybe.
Right.
And then,
So did you? No, you couldn't have called anybody, could you?
well, I did.
Oh, you
I
did.
messaged my husband and stuff,
Okay.
and I said, they're transferring me to the ER,
Mhm.
and I don't understand. And
Right.
so I was there for the longest time in the ER. They were doing more
More
blood
tests.
work, and then finally she came to me. She said, Ms. Ramos, we need you to do an MRI.
That's the doctor now that
Yeah,
was
the
assigned to you?
ER. Yeah. And I said, sure. And then she said, which insurance do you have?
Right,
And I said, cynical. And she said, are you 100% covered? I said, yes, my husband works for government.
right,
And she said, okay, well, she called the people in the MRI unit
right.
and they said, sure, bring her over right away. I guess they figured, well, they're going to get their money, so not a big deal. But if I didn't have proper insurance, then I guess I would have to do it because they were waiting on approval.
Okay,
But with Senegal, I guess they know they're going to get approval
Right.
because it's 100%,
Right.
at least in the case of a government employee
Right.
in their family.
right,
So I went over and I did it. And of course, the technician was not going to tell you anything. He did all the same stuff and then he asked about the
so the
contrast as well.
MRI is the one with the machine that you lay down in now?
Mhm.
How did you?
It's very claustrophobic,
Yeah.
but nothing compared to what I had to endure after
Okay,
being
which we're gonna
diagnosed.
get
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
But I did an MRI. He asked the same thing about the contrast, and I said, no, I'm not allergic because I did it today.
Right.
And then he said, okay, fine. He gave me the contrast as well.
Mhm.
And then you go back into the machine and you go again, and it's really, really loud. Like it's banging in your ears,
Wow.
loud. Well, they put earplugs in, but you can still hear the sound.
Okay.
And then I went back to the they wheeled me back to the ER.
Mhm.
And then the doctor came and then she did, I mean, nobody really explained anything at the very moment it was happening. But then she came back and she said, oh, Miss Ramos, by the way, tomorrow a neurosurgeon is coming to see you. And I said, a what? And she was like, oh, no one has told you.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, no, told me what? And that's when she said, you have a brain tumor.
And what was Jolene's reaction?
My reaction, I didn't break down, I didn't cry, I didn't do any of that stuff. I just said, well, what can I do? I have to face this. There's no running away. That's
that
what I thought.
moment,
In that
you-
moment, I texted my husband. I said, they say I have a brain tumor and tomorrow a neurosurgeon is coming. So I started making plans for what I was going to question him about. Yep, weird.
So did Daddy tell you guys what was happening to Mommy? And what was the reaction? How did you feel?
I felt like I don't know the word. I felt depressed. So
Really? And did you talk with Daddy about this? Did you talk with anyone about how you were feeling? Who did you speak with?
my sister
Your
who was
sister.
in the U.S.
Uh-huh. And what did she say to you?
She said that everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Not to make like that stuff get to me,
Okay.
and make sure to always stay positive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Such a great, such a great friend. So, Jolene, we are now going to get to the next episode when you're going to tell us exactly when the doctor came and what happened. But so before we go, did you have to stay in the hospital then?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So then your husband was allowed to come and see you?
Well,
Only one person.
that was
And that was my dad.
yeah, that was at the other hospital, sweetheart. That wasn't the one here.
Okay.
But yes, Daddy got to visit me, but because it was COVID, I had to go through people who could get him
Into
to
the
visit.
hospital?
Yeah,
Because otherwise
he couldn't
you
visit.
wouldn't see
Yeah.
anybody.
I wouldn't have saw anyone. And I said, because I have to go and do this neurosurgeon thing,
Right.
I need to have somebody to be able to rationale and discuss things with. So it would affect him just as much as it would affect me.
Exactly.
So he has to be a part of this decision making.
Right.
So the morning came and I asked who the neurosurgeon was ahead of time. They told me, Dr. James.
Okay.
And I was
So before we got to the morning, you slept well that night?
I think I did, yeah.
You think you did?
Yeah.
You
I
think
sure
you-
didn't.
You didn't, eh? You didn't because you were concerned about money. Oh, wow.
I would say for 3 days I didn't get sleep.
3 days? Wow. So, Jolene, we're just gonna end right here,
Okay.
and then we're gonna pick up on what happened the next day,
Okay.
because this story gets more and more interesting as we go along. What I have to commend you though, no fear hit you, even in the face of the diagnosis.
Mhm.
you didn't get scared, you didn't panic.
No.
You just said, we have to, what can I do now? We
Yeah.
have to deal with
Yeah.
this.
So I got on the phone and I called people to get my husband in to visit me to discuss with this
Right.
neurosurgeon. I thought about all of that and I arranged that in the ER. But before I could go up to the room, they had to do a COVID test.
Okay.
So they did that on me.
They did that.
And then they sent me up to surgical ward to spend the night.
So you
until-
were just functioning.
Yeah. I thought that was functioning normal. I thought about everything that kind of need to be done. I asked my older daughter, like, these are the questions we're going to ask him. My husband came.
So your older daughter, the one in the States?
Yeah.
Oh, you called her too?
I messaged everybody.
Jolene, you were fully operational. Like
Yes.
you went into, okay, I got to get this done. Let's
Yes.
do this
Yeah.
the right way. Oh. Did you get to speak? Kaden?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, on the phone.
And Kaden, how did you feel when you heard Mama's voice?
Like, happy to see her.
Yeah. Kaden, thank you so much for being Mommy's angel. Because if it weren't for you and your bravery in telling Mommy exactly what happened, Mommy wouldn't be here today to share her story. So thank you so much
Thank you.
for being brave
Yes.
and for even knowing that something was
Yeah.
really wrong.
Mhm.
And for knowing that you recognize symptoms, because you said an aunt suffered from seizures, so you knew what it looks like. You're so brave.
And now I'm doing first aid at my school.
Yeah.
So if anything else happens to her, I can help.
Kaden, you are to be commended and awarded and applauded for being the best kid on the planet. 'Cause you
National
are.
Heroes Day. You
Yes,
can get.
National Heroes Kids Day.
Yeah.
Kaden Ramos. Thank you so much. Thank you so
baby.
much again, Jolene, for starting this conversation. And I must say thank you to the Ritz-Carlton of Grand Cayman, where we are taping Let's Get Loud live from. So the Ritz-Carlton, Grand Cayman, where every day it's a beautiful day at the Ritz-Carlton. So join us next week and you'll hear more as the journey with Jolene continues. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to miss it. And if you haven't as yet subscribed to this channel, we invite you to, right, Kaden?
Yeah.
Yes, especially when you be hearing Kaden's story. We invite you to subscribe, share this because people need to know. People need to know, especially children like Kaden. They need to know what are the symptoms, what do they do when they see something like this happen. And of course, leave your comment and let us know what you're thinking. So until next week, thank you so much. And again, goodbye from the beautiful Ritz-Carlton in the Cayman Islands, where every day it's a beautiful day.